you'll notice how even in that video, the Christian nations banded together and ended slavery. Yet they ended slavery in the Christian nations. Islam is still carrying on with slavery up until today. This is why the Crusades were justified.
Yeah, so today we're going to speak about slavery. And so much of it has been changed.
Yeah, to fit the narrative.
To fit that. Or people don't want others to actually know about it.
Yeah, because it goes against the current agenda and the current goals, I suppose, of the would-be establishment, I think.
Yeah, and we ordinary people that are just trying to live life and raise kids and, just live.
Yeah.
We are really in, the same boat.
The same slave boat.
Yeah, the same slave boat. So nothing has really changed because we choose evil people.
Yeah. And I think we choose evil people simply out of, once again, it comes down to ignorance of history.
Yeah.
And it's because, once again, the global elites are pushing a narrative that doesn't necessarily require you to learn about history. It's actually more detrimental to you the more you learn about history, because then you start seeing that the agendas that are being pushed now have been pushed in the past, and they failed miserably, and they've led to a lot of societal problems which could have been avoided. But I suppose that old adage goes, ignorance is bliss.
Yeah, but it's not really bliss because you are going to actually die.
Yeah.
And millions of others as well.
And the ignorance of the things that you support, it's not just your life at stake. The ignorance of the things that you support and the agendas that you affirm have other repercussions for other people as well. It's not just you.
If you get, and what we don't understand because we've been so conditioned by technology, is to ask questions. And to find out stuff and to do our own research.
Yeah.
And we are being lied to every single day.
Yeah.
And we don't ask older people.
Or just, once again, use the technology that you have.
Yeah.
And find out about stuff. As opposed to just your run-of-the-mill TikTok videos on cats and stuff like that. There's a wealth of information out there that is beneficial.
Yeah. And what really frustrates me is that us middle class white people in South Africa, we are under so much pressure right now. Because...
Well, especially with the Trump stuff that's going on, and lots of uncertain times.
And because history of anti-South Africa has been so twisted, it doesn't matter what we say, it's not going to change much.
Yeah. We better get into this video.
Okay, so we're going to watch a video.
So this is about the slave trade. And Islam, funny enough.
slave trades in Africa have featured prominently in the continent's history. Most of the time, the traffic of slaves would flow outward from Africa to places such as the Middle East or the Americas. But one aberration to that rule was the Barbary slave trade. This is when pirates operating off the coast of North Africa preyed on European coastal settlements and ships, enslaving Europeans who were subsequently brought back to port cities in Morocco and Algeria, among other places. Historians have speculated that from the 16th to the early 19th century, as much as 1 million Christian Europeans were enslaved by the Barbary pirates. This video is brought to you by Nominal, the Arabic-inspired jewelry brand that emphasizes minimalism and a modern twist on meaningful accessories. I've been shopping with Nominal for a number of years now, and I can't recommend them highly enough. I've also given out an
This AI tool is better than Midjourney for one-time cost because
you can create unlimited AI images with accurate text for a one-time cost.
The Barbary coast took its name from the Berbers who inhabit North Africa. The Berbers call themselves Amazigh, while the word Berber itself comes from the ancient Greek word for barbarian. Europeans would refer to modern-day Morocco, Tunisia, Algeria and Libya as the Barbary coast. In order to understand why the Barbary pirates themselves became so prominent, we have to understand the political dynamics of the Mediterranean in the 16th century. This vital region was dominated by a burgeoning imperial rivalry between the Spanish and the Ottomans. Invigorated by a long list of intrepid rulers, the Ottomans sought to expand their influence in every direction, sending alarm bells throughout Europe. After conquering Egypt in 1517, they looked to move westward across North Africa and into the Barbary coast. It is at this point that the Barbary pirates became major players in the Mediterranean. At the same time, the Spanish were becoming a powerhouse in this period because of their iron grip over much of the Americas and its vast resources. In addition, Spain had been united towards the end of the 15th century under the Catholic monarchs Ferdinand and Isabella, expelling the last remnants of Muslim power in 1492 when they took Granada. Most of these expelled Jews and Muslims would move to the Maghreb, northwestern Africa, and in the process some of them took up piracy. As a result, the Ottomans found willing collaborators in the Barbary pirates to undermine their Spanish foes. During their expansion into the Barbary coast, privateers were absolutely pivotal for the Ottomans. In fact, Algeria came under Ottoman dominion as a result of the infamous pirates, the Barbarossa brothers, Uruch and Hayreddin. Tripoli was conquered in 1551 by another prominent pirate, Turgut Reis. Tunis was captured by Uluch Ali, a man who had served under Turgut Reis. Uluch Ali had actually been born in Calabria, southern Italy, christened with the name Giovanni Dionigi Galeni before being taken as a slave by Barbary pirates under the command of Hayreddin Barbarossa. He would remain a galley slave for the next few years, but would convert to Islam and was freed from slavery soon after. The conversion to Islam was a common route taken by non-Muslim slaves who wanted to gain freedom. Afterwards, Uluch Ali would become a privateer under the famed Turgut Reis, and from there go on to attain the highest position possible in the Ottoman Navy, demonstrating just how much a person could climb up the social ladder despite being a slave. In the late 1570s, the Ottomans and Spanish signed a truce which would see a reduction of hostilities between the two states in the Mediterranean. At the same time, the Ottoman Barbary coast states of Tripoli, Tunis, and Algiers gained greater autonomy from Constantinople. This meant that the activity of the Barbary pirates would become less focused on achieving political goals and more so on the economic benefit of plunder. This decrease in Ottoman central authority allowed the Barbary pirates to focus very heavily on their most lucrative business, slavery. Pirate raids were such a big issue that coastal settlements along the Mediterranean coasts of Spain, France, and Italy suffered depopulation. People had to think twice if they wanted to live in an area that was subject to raids. In 1617, one such raid led to 1,200 men and women being captured on the island of Madeira off the coast of Portugal. In Calabria, Italy, over the course of 8 years in the 1630s and 40s, these raids led to nearly 5,000 prisoners being captured. But it wasn't just southern Europe that was in danger. The intrepid Barbary pirates sailed into the Atlantic Ocean and raided northern Europe as well. The coastal towns of England and the Netherlands were not safe. In 1640, Barbary pirates captured 60 men, women and children from the Cornish coast in England, whilst the following year saw them capture the John Filmer ship, resulting in 120 passengers being enslaved. Numerically speaking, capturing ships resulted in a high number of slaves since each would often have dozens of crew members and passengers. And the fact that each year the Barbary pirates could capture dozens, sometimes hundreds of ships. Between 1606 and 1609, the English Royal Navy lost 466 ships to Algerian pirates. Over the course of the next decade, this number would more than double when taking into account ships from Spain, France, and the Netherlands. Piracy and slave-taking from coastal regions was such a problem in southern Europe that the Trinitarian religious order spent much of its efforts to free captives by collecting ransom money. This development saw parallels in northern Europe where the concept of Sklavenkasse or slave fund arose. This was a ransom insurance scheme popular amongst many German city-states to pay ransom for Europeans captured by Barbary pirates. It should be stated that the religious dimension of the slave trade is sometimes overhyped and generally misunderstood. There certainly was an element of religiosity involved. Islamic law gives the injunction that enslavement can only be carried out on non-Muslims and in specific conditions, such as war. But it is hard to determine the primary motivations of the principal actors involved in the Barbary slave trade. For the Ottoman Sultan, his patronage of the pirates would undoubtedly have been motivated by a desire to weaken European powers, who often banded together to form military coalitions against him, whilst the pirates themselves likely saw the enslavement as a means of procuring money. The financial allure of piracy is highlighted by the fact that a growing number of European pirates traveled to the Barbary coast to seek their fortune. Specifically, English and Dutch privateers became prominent players in Barbary piracy by the early 17th century. Among them was Jack Ward, a former Elizabethan privateer who in the Stuart era reached Saleh in Morocco and continued his piracy. Changing his name to Yusuf Reis upon his conversion to Islam, Ward moved to Tunis in 1607 and used the port as his base until retiring in 1622. Reportedly amassing a huge fortune. In 1627, there was a raid on Iceland, whilst the daring pirates led a raid on the village of Baltimore in Ireland in 1631. Both of these were led by a Dutchman, Jan Janson. Initially a Dutch privateer, Janson turned Turk, a way of saying he became Muslim when he was captured by the Barbary pirates in 1618. Changing his name to Murat Reis, he would go on to become the first president of the Pirate Republic of Saleh, a city that was literally run by the prophets of piracy. There were numerous other prominent Dutch pirates such as Simon Danziger and Ivan de Van Boer. We have to remember that for sailors who wanted to make extra money and were not necessarily inhibited by the moral questions brought about by piracy, the Barbary coast had excellent prospects for socio-material gain. There were thousands of Europeans who joined the Barbary pirates voluntarily. They brought with them important knowledge regarding naval technological advancements that were taking place in their home countries, thereby advancing the cause of the Barbary pirates. So what caused the downfall of such a profitable business? Well, as European navies started to develop, the threat of the Barbary pirates diminished with it. Merchant ships were better protected. The Ottomans had also lost their sense of naval invincibility in the Mediterranean, so that meant less protection for the pirates. By the 18th century, European countries with powerful enough navies forced peace upon the Barbary states by bombarding their cities. It seemed that the naval technology of the pirates could not hold up to the advancements made by European navies. In 1798, Napoleon's arrival in Egypt signaled the arrival of European dominance to the North African coast, and by 1830, the combined efforts of the British, French, and the nascent United States of America would finally put an end to the Barbary slave trade for good. Thank you guys for watching. I can't forget to thank my patrons for their continued support. And last but not least, I want to thank my friend.
Yeah. All through history, when a certain nation or tribe took over a different tribe, there, those people that lost actually became slaves.
Yeah. And slavery is not a race thing.
No. It's all about who is going to rule.
Yeah. And unfortunately, Islam still practices slavery today.
Yeah. And it's they just want to go back to that time where they ruled so many lands and just took people. As Sam said in a Game of Thrones, she is not a goat.
Oh, right, okay, yeah.
It is a person.
Yeah.
You can't steal a person.
Yeah. I mean, it shouldn't even enter your mind.
Yeah.
And, because of all the debates that I've been hearing from Speaker's Corner in the UK and all this rhetoric, there's a lot of people that are going to make the claim that the Bible condones slavery. First of all, it doesn't. There is mention of slavery in the Bible, yes. But you must also remember that is specifically referring to the Old Testament.
Yes, and the culture of that time. You'll notice how, even in that video, the Christian nations banded together and ended slavery. Yeah.
Yet they ended slavery in the Christian nations. Islam is still carrying on with slavery up until today. This is why the Crusades were justified.
Yes.
This is why peace needs to be made by force.
Yeah, and this is where the churches missed the major obstacle. You can pray, which is good, but there comes a time for anti-action. And it's fine to pray, but do something at least.
Yeah. And I find it ridiculous, really, that the people in that video who became slaves, some of them then converted to Islam.
Yeah.
And funnily enough, became slavers.
Yes.
They changed their names they change their beliefs in order to adopt a belief that's far inferior and far more detrimental to human flourishing. And somehow you come to the conclusion that that is the better religion for humanity.
When you have until you actually gone through it yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's so frustrating that we have children, women, young men becoming sex slaves. It's still the same rotten pot. And we can say that we are so civilized, enlightened, and that we're not.
But it's interesting that in our enlightenment, we've decided to move past the things that made the West great.
Yeah.
Ergo Christianity. Ergo the ways of Christianity. And we've decided to adopt this for the sake of understanding that there's different cultures, and all different cultures, need to have a say. This is what results in all cultures having a say. There's some cultures that are fundamentally worse for human flourishing than others.
And we are not all the same. You cannot take a person from a Muslim nation and say he's the same as like us. Mentality-wise, I am speaking about.
Exactly, yeah.
What things do you... How can I put this? What things do you value? Death or life?
And it does seem, just by historical evidence and by what's happening in the world now, that Islam is not too keen on peace. They're more afraid with, I suppose, world domination. But it's world domination through subjugation of everyone else.
And if you don't choose to go along with them, besides becoming a second-class citizen, you will most probably be killed, you must probably become a sex slave, you must probably be just... You'll actually lose the anti-will to fight back.
And Christianity, Christianity has also got this idea of it's a good thing to become a Christian. Every Christian would want everybody to be Christian. In as much as Islam would want everybody to be a Muslim.
Become Islam, yeah.
The thing is where both views differ is the way we attempt to do it is through love and mercy and compassion, because that's the approach that Jesus took, as opposed to Islam, which is slavery, dominance,
force,
and bloodshed,
and power.
And that's why I'm going to, I'll link a couple of those, I'll put some verses up for folks to see about what the Quran, outright condones, slavery, and people can make up their own mind.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Like, if we follow UK news and the news just worldwide, we'll actually notice that there are so many things happening worldwide all at the same time.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to say I am sorry, but honestly, there are more important things carrying on than my pronouns. I am not going to actually say I am sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, there's lots of stuff happening all over, and yeah, this is just one of the many, many issues that unfortunately this humanitarian liberal, call it this weird liberal humanitarian Christianity, or this weird liberal Enlightenment age ideology, has sort of brought us to a bottleneck, really, in, weirdly, as they always like to say, progression. But it's actually hindered progression.
It's actually going backwards to the Middle Age, or past that, 13th, 15th century.
And interesting, those were the times when the Crusades were happening. The Crusades were out of necessity.
Yeah.
And yet I don't necessarily see Christianity and society in general in the West having the wherewithal and spine to even consider crusading possibly becoming warranted again.
Well, I think it's actually past that time.
No, I think so too.
We've been spending too many years focusing on church buildings, focusing on making converts and not disciples. And you can take a room full of Christians and they will not agree on the word actually being the word. They will bend and twist as much as they can.
And it's also interesting because this kind of content would be silenced not just by Muslims and Islamists and algorithms and all sorts of stuff, but it will also be silenced by your run-of-the-mill libertarian, liberal Christian, where this kind of content would be seen as, no, but it's not very loving, and it's not what it's not what Jesus taught us.
Yeah.
And again, that's a gross misunderstanding of the Bible once again.
And it's like, it's up to us Christians to actually warn people.
And it's up to us Christians to educate ourselves about the religion that we came to adhere to.
Yeah. And to actually find out about the church history, the church fathers. And it really goes far beyond just going to a church and going home.
Yeah. As we like to say so often in Christian circles, Christianity should be a lifestyle. Yet, it seems like it's a lifestyle insofar as it fits with your ideology of humanitarian, wishy-washy globalism and let's get all along. And yeah, the Bible talks about, you need to submit to God. I think it's in James, submit to God and resist the devil. Christianity is submitting to God, and by submitting to God, you are going to have to resist the devil. And unfortunately, there's lots of people in the world that are submitting to the devil. Those type of people, therefore, as a Christian, you need to resist.
And there is a link between liberal and Satan. And we'll do a video about that, maybe in the next couple of weeks. And find a spine.